I had known Harry Reasoner because, strangely enough, when I'd gone to China with Richard Nixon, Harry Reasoner had been, I think, their correspondent there, and I'd also seen him when I was in Atlantic City before I went on the air during the Lyndon Johnson convention, and we were pals. I thought he was very wry and amusing and charming, and I guess I should have met with him beforehand and said, how do you feel about it? That never occurred to me. And he never disliked me personally. Years later, after he'd gone back to CBS, he wrote a book, he wrote an autobiography. And I did the interview with him for the Today Show, and he said, I never disliked you personally. But he didn't want a partner. He was unhappy at ABC, and he was saddled with this woman, and he would go every night across the street before the show and have, I guess, a couple of beers with the guys. It was, it's an all-male club, and they would all sit and talk, about how terrible I was. And the only way that I sort of got through was that I liked the Yankees. I used to go to the Yankee games. And I knew George Steinbrenner. I'd met him, interestingly enough, in Cuba when I went down at one point to interview Fidel. That first interview, because the Yankees were secretly there, and George Steinbrenner was there. First time I'd ever heard of George Steinbrenner. And I put a microphone under him. What are you doing here? You can imagine how thrilled he was. But we became friends. And so Steinbrenner used to say, this is, watch this, or we're going to do that. So I would come in with all of this stuff about the Yankees, and at least the stagehands would talk to me. And I would make bets with Harry, and sometimes I would win. That was the only kind of communication we had. Otherwise, the studio was cold, and I was frozen out. But it wasn't, Harry wasn't mean. He was unhappy there, and unhappy with me. And as we learned later, going through many things in his private life that none of us knew about at the time.
As a matter of fact, it was because of the riots of the 70s that I think they were looking for minorities. They were trying to fulfill all of their quotas and programs. And so I was hired as a token and had to take the heat from my college classmates. I went to an all-black college with them calling me a token. And I used to say, yeah, but I'm a paid token. And I recognized that, and at the time I didn't even know it was a pun. I was saying, yeah, but they pay me. And I was very defensive about it because I've always had to live with the notion of other black people saying, oh, for any amount of success that you achieve, they say, oh, you're trying to be white, you're trying to talk white, you're trying to be white, and so forth, which is such a ridiculous notion to me. Since you look in the mirror every morning and you're black, there's a black face in your reflection.